So you get it now?
Yes.
Okay. And you happy with the lighting?
Yes.
Okay. Before we start, I just want to let you know that you look very nice. Very beautiful indeed.
I could say the same thing.
Can I say, baby? Scrumdiddlyumptious.
Thank you.
I know that's fine. Right, so, all ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done this in a while, to be fair, babe.
That's because we collectively have been unwell for like a month.
Yeah, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, what's going on, my peoples? And I go by name the Sorcerer, and we'd like to make a return of the We Hold Space podcast.
And I'm Saige the Dragon.
Yes, I forgot to introduce Sage. I'm just saying. But it's been a merry minute, and the reason why it's been a merry minute, a lot of things has happened. So we've had, just to give you clarification, I wasn't well in the early part of January, where I would say 2.5 weeks where I wasn't well. I was a complete and utter, it was a shit show for me, excuse my language, but it is what it is. And this was just 1 week I would feel absolutely fine, and the next minute, that was it. It was just that I felt like death as it is. And unfortunately, I gave it to Saige. So it was a game of tag. I was unwell, and then I was unwell for 2 weeks, and then Saige was unwell for around about the same period. So any part of us making plans, we had to postpone those plans, right? We had to reschedule. I didn't want to do any readings. I didn't. And I had to enforce those boundaries within myself and to my clients, which goes towards our topic of conversation, and that is
setting boundaries when you are offering energy exchanges of any kind.
Yes. And I will talk about it from the nature of a tarot reader, as well as Saige will be discussing things a matter of light code activations, but it all comes from the same umbrella. This is about being able to say no, essentially, and regaining that power of yourself to say no. One of the biggest things a lot of people within the community, I feel like, and I've seen it, is where they don't administer boundaries. They don't know how to say no to themselves as well as no to other people. And I think that's very important that I add to that. It's not just saying no to people who want to get services of tarot, Reiki. It's also you saying no to yourself. Maybe that is one of your, your main incomes. That must be like one of the biggest things a person can't say no, is knowing that that's a service that they have to take because it's money. But you're giving yourself a disservice. You're also giving your client a disservice. And that's because if you're unwell, your body is literally, your mind, body and soul is literally telling you that you need to have a rest, reset. And during that time, it is unfair to give any type of service. This is about you. This is knowing that you've got to nurture yourself. And anybody that's worth their grain of salt when it comes to services such as holistics, readings, any form of readings, if you're worth that grain of salt, if you have integrity, it's a time when you have to say, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to reschedule. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't do that. Is there anything you want to add to that, babe?
I agree with you. Something that popped in my mind while you were speaking is like your business is just another projection of you. And so if you find that you're having a hard time setting boundaries when it comes to your business or what you have to offer, odds are you probably have that other issue I'm sorry, you have that issue in other areas of your life.
Yes. And it was interesting that you said that. There was this, so me and Saige watched this podcast. I wouldn't call it a podcast, it's a YouTube channel. I won't say the name, but essentially it's a reactionary channel about just what happens in the world today, just your ongoing things. You know, if something goes viral, something comes up, they talk about it. And it was interesting because we were watching about this quote unquote spiritual life coach. Let's have it. She's a charlatan, but that's another topic of discussion. And what I found interesting was you spoken about if certain areas in your life aren't great, how are you supposed to administer services of care and services to help other people if your life isn't good as it is. And I think as well as boundaries to people that you feel like you need to enforce, you need to also enforce those boundaries to yourself. If I give an example, and I had a reading earlier today, and I was talking to this person, and I said to her, because we were both in agreement, mutual agreement to that, we're not the type of readers that we wouldn't get, well, yes, sorry, I was just like having a little verbal diarrhea, but my personal opinion, and this is how I go about things, I personally wouldn't read somebody even if I had a toothache. I just won't, even if I have a slight cold, I choose not to, because I believe energy is so important to me. And there's also respecting that energy, and now essentially respecting that person that you're reading, respecting yourself. That time will come. You can reschedule. You know, money's always going to be overflowing, and over. It always comes and goes. But you're really blocking yourself when, in my personal opinion, when you create these sort of disservices to yourself. Because let's just say, and I've heard stories. We've heard stories of people being unhappy with their service because that tarot reader was off, or that oracle reader was off, or it was a bad day in the office. Essentially, that's another customer gone. Now imagine you lost a customer because you wasn't at your best, knowing that you could have waited another day. That's on you. Like, you've got to hold yourself to account.
I want to touch on something that you're basically saying, and it's relevant to what I just learned for myself, because I am learning now to stand on business with my boundaries, and just, I'm recognizing the use for them, right? And so one of the things that I've learned recently, that before you can really set boundaries, you have to be clear on like your values, right? So if you know that one of your values is integrity, that's gonna allow you to recognize that having the boundary of, when I don't feel well, I am not going to offer this service to people because that would be out of alignment with my integrity. So I just wanted to add that little tidbit in there, as far as if someone is thinking like, I understand the concept of boundaries, but I'm not quite sure on how to start implementing boundaries that feel good to me.
That's a very good point. I think another part of boundaries is learning to say no. I've learnt there's a lot of people that are still learning that process, and that's fine. I think power to you, and I feel like you should just keep on going and going and going with your learning towards that. There's a lot of readers out there that I know are uncomfortable with certain questions. Why are you not speaking up? If somebody's asking you for a specific question, maybe it's a pregnancy question, and you're not comfortable about reading a pregnancy question, to which, for me, I think it's unethical in the first place anyway, right? I think if you can't do that, then you shouldn't be reading. You have to be honest. When I say you tell the reader what you need to tell them rather than what they want, that's especially your beliefs when it comes to readings. So it has to come within the whole full circle, not just the reading, but your certain beliefs about certain things that you may not be comfortable talking about. And that's something that happens very frequently. More than so. I'd say a lot of those type of conversations are muttered, but they're never spoken out.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to bring that to light.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. And I just want to add in the emotional aspect as well of, let's say it's a case of where something about this person just doesn't feel right to you. You don't have that concrete evidence of like, oh, they asked me for this, so I can actually say no. Even if it's just, again, coming back to your values of, you feel like one of your values is I honor myself. Making that choice of where I don't want to read this person, or I don't want to do Reiki with this person because something about them just feels out of alignment with me. You honor yourself by just respecting what you feel in your boonies, what you feel in your intuition. And a lot of times you won't get that validation of the decision that you made was correct, but you can walk away from the situation knowing that you stood on your values and your boundaries. And that's also, a form of self-love, self-care.
And something that I've learned recently, you got to stand on business.
Yeah, stand on business.
And that comes with everything. I think one thing I've learned and developed over time, because as you know, I've only started this whole social media journey regarding my services at tarot. I'd say it's still less within a year. And the amount of people out there that I would say continuously spam. I think it's important for anybody, because I had to learn this quite quickly. And I see a lot of people still allow these things to happen when it comes to, when you're, for example, if you're doing a live, you're not asserting boundaries if you're not going to set some certain house rules. And you've got to set the precedent when it comes to your own boundaries and protecting your energy, because people need to understand that you reading for them is a privilege. It's an absolute privilege. And I want you to understand that anybody that's starting or has the enthusiasm for not just any holistic stuff, that your energy is precious and it's a privilege. Don't ever forget that. And don't let anyone feel like your energy's abused. It's so important. And I feel like if I'd known the roads prior to this, if I'm being honest, I would have given somebody, well, I'm glad I'm doing it now, but looking back, I wish somebody would have given me that sort of like heads up. But now I know what the roads are like. Anyone that's starting, just remember about these boundaries, about setting your own house rules. And you're not wrong. You're being true to yourself. At the end of the day, I'm letting you know, because prevention is always better than cure. And just remember that if you feel even a percentage of uncomfortability, that is your right to say that you're uncomfortable and administer that within your house rules.
And I remember in the earlier days of when we met, and I would watch you on TikTok in these lives, I think there's this common misconception that when it comes to being of service to the collective, you just have this feeling of I need to give, I need to give, I need to give, I need to serve, I need to serve, I need to, it comes with this pressure of almost putting others before yourself. And that ends up becoming you getting burnt out. And then now you're dealing with negative emotions of some sort of shame or some sort of guilt, and I'm specifically talking to the people pleasers out there, because I know that stepping into that space of giving as a people pleaser is just a whole another challenge. But I just want to reiterate what Paul was just saying, that your energy is precious. And what good is filling someone else's cup out of love when your cup is always on low, if it's always on empty? And so part of loving others and serving others is like loving and serving yourself and giving yourself what you need and recognizing like, hey, if I don't want to offer this service more than like twice a week, then honor that. And that's totally okay. You have to do what makes you feel the most optimal, the most, just good with yourself.
And I think it's important that I add that if you're continuously saying yes, 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 you're not being your most authentic self. That's the first thing. And you're enabling yourself to get more abuse. Essentially, this is an abuse of power, right? Abuse is abuse, whether it's in the low scale or high scale, and how you see it. But I'm just letting you know that at the end of the day, the abuse is that your energy is getting essentially taken for granted and I'm just only highlighting that because I want to highlight your own value and how precious that is. And I think, do you know what? I'm so glad we've had this discussion. And because I'm just going to tell the audience, but there's been many times that me and Saige have tried to have this episode, but I don't know what it is, but it seems like the timing of this is right. Because we've tried twice under circumstances which is not our fault. Was it the first time was like the car was just kept on beeping, and there was like a car outside of the building, and there was alarms. And then the second time we recorded, and then there was a problem with the recording, but I realized that message wasn't ready to be put out. It was all now in divine timing. Because the reason why I say this is because me and Saige have had experiences now, and we've grown from it, of understanding our own boundaries as well as administering other boundaries to other people, as well as just making our own house rules. And it's more a full circle moment for us, not just for you and I, but for the viewers. There's gonna be an understanding when I mean by when certain things just fit and it all comes into plan, then it's all in divine timing. Because I think the essence before was that it wasn't that the energy that we were trying to bring out was forced, but it just didn't sit right at the time. And what was beautiful was I had my ascension sickness, and then Saige had her ascension sickness, but it wasn't just us needing the rest, because we needed to evaluate, internalize things within ourselves to bring you the best version of us, and sending that message to you guys, because it was very important for us to bring you, even for myself, even for Saige. Saige is a completely talented boss of a being when it comes to light language, when it comes to her tantra, when it comes to her dancing, when it comes to her motivational speaking, when it comes to her coaching, when it comes to empowering. And myself as a tarot reader, as someone that motivates people, channels, we wouldn't be able to send you all of these messages until we were both 100%. And we've had to go through all of these things. And I feel like, would you agree, there's this sense of triumphantness that we went through these things just because we can send the best messages out there right now.
I agree with you 100%. And it was like, the other times that we recorded, I felt like they were different each time as far as like the opinions we were giving about the topic. And I feel like this one, like if it wasn't for especially yesterday, it created an entirely different conversation today.
Oh yes, absolutely. I think going forwards, me and Saige are going to be talking more about not just our social topics and spirituality, but more about how we go through and how we find solutions within ourselves and our relationship, and how we can help you guys. But at the meantime, the plan is still going to be the same. We'll express everything in all forms of spirituality, but we want to add a little bit of spice towards it going forwards, if you know what I mean. So yes, I just want to say I hope you enjoyed this episode. I go by the name of the Sorcerer.
And I'm Saige the Dragon.
And we hold space.
Did
you like that?
Yeah.
Yeah? That was a good episode, right?
It was.
Yeah. I'm proud of you,
Handsome
baby.
king.
My sexy baby.
I'm proud of us.
I know,
And what do you mean you listed all these amazing things about me and you were just like, oh, I'm tarot reader and channeler? No. You're a motivational speaker. You're an empowerer. You're a beacon of light and safety and divine masculineness. You can literally... You're an editor. You're a videographer. Like, the list goes on and on.
Do you know why? Because it sounds better when you say it. Alright, guys. You take care. Love.